and I have always taken care of her as part brother, part father. You need to be strong, Sophie, stronger than you've ever been. Your old mom has left now, and I will always love you. I will always try to find a way back to come back to you both. I try to reassure her, but it's a well-known truth that nobody ever comes back. Tears fall down her face and she hugs me, holding onto my waist. I don't want you to go, she pleads with me. Sophie, I need you to be brave. I need you to take care of Mom. Make me the proudest brother in our entire town. I lift up her chin, wipe away her tiny tears and kiss her forehead. She gives me a half-hearted smile and says, I will try, Joseph. I look at my sister for a moment, so thin and so fragile, her pale white face and gleaming blue eyes that pour love at you when you look into them, her long blonde hair, the tiny freckles on her nose. I want to remember this moment forever, instill her image deep within my memory. For the only photographs we can afford here are those buried deep in our hearts. I shall never see my little sister again. I will remember these expectant, loving eyes, her innocent, adorable, tiny face, and the way she waits to hear the sound of my returning footsteps and then comes running to greet me at the door until my very last day of life. I will remember. Then I turn to my mother, the poor fragmented soul who gave both me and my sister life by bringing us into this world, whose dry, cracked lips have laid a million kisses upon us, whispered endless prayers for our well-being. Losing my father in the war nearly took our mother away too, but she cheated death and survived, living through endless nights of unyielding hunger and freezing cold to feed whatever precious scraps of food she could scrounge, many times going hungry herself. How am I to leave and never see my mother's face again, a face that has always filled my heart with comfort and courage, her gentle kindness enriched in my childhood memories? The simple truth is I will never see my mother again, along with so many of my town's firstborn children who are destined to share my fate. This is the day we have both dreaded for so long. Being a gentle, harmless soul, I expected my mother to break down, but she doesn't. Instead, she holds onto my neck, pulling me towards her, and kisses my forehead and says something no son can ever forget. I am the proudest mother in the world today. I have raised a son people can only hope for. I am happy to see you become the man that you are. I am sending you away with my last blessing. Make me proud. Make your father proud. Today I hand you over to my God's protection. My prayers will remain with you until I draw my last breath. She kisses me again and tears roll down her face as she closes her eyes. I feel my heart clench. I almost break down, but fight and contain my emotions within me. For if my mother and little sister can possess this much courage, then surely I must do the same. I must leave them with a good memory. It's the least I can do. I will always try to do the right thing, Mom. I will keep you and Sophie in my heart. As long as I have my memories, they can never separate us. As long as I am alive, you will always both be with me. I kiss my mother's head and then bend down to kiss Sophie's hair as she holds onto my waist and hides the tiny face in my stomach. Then I have one more person left to say goodbye to, my childhood love, and for the past hour, my wife, Grace. Sophie and Mum realise it's getting late and that I would like to spend my last few hours with Grace, so they reluctantly let me go. My mother has also loved Grace since she was only 5 years old, while Sophie has always taken her for her adopted big sister. Sometimes, when Sophie was a baby, she would cry all night and not fall asleep until I held her in my arms. I would hold her, then when my mother would get tired, even if she was burning up with a fever, she would stop crying as soon as I held her. Grace would sit next to me and sing a lullaby that would send her to sleep. Being only 8 years old herself, but her voice always had a calming effect on my sister, and was the best we could do for a feverish baby, as medicine was a precious luxury we could never afford. Never having seen our dad as he died before Sophie was born, I suppose I was the only father figure my sister ever had. It would give my soul comfort if I could leave Sophie and my mom with Grace to look after them. But it's an ironic, cruel twist of fate that, like myself, she is also a firstborn child, which only adds to Sophie and my mother's anguish, knowing that as well as myself, they will have to lose Grace as well. My eyes turn to Grace, even though it seems like a futile gesture. Our friends and family have secretly dressed her as a bride. Her hair is gleaming like sunshine. Her dawn-colored blue eyes, beautiful enough to even make passing angels stop and wonder. Her unblemished, radiant complexion. Her childlike, perfectly thin nose and lips. And even though she would never admit it, Grace was blessed with such a pure, innocent beauty since her childhood, that even if she was coughing in sickness and covered in dirt and devoid of any sweet perfumes, or even if she hadn't had any precious water to wash her face with, Grace remained stubbornly beautiful, even though her mother often tried her best to disguise her with dirt marks, and veil her face and hair with old rags to protect her from the prying eyes of the state nobles. It was pointless. Your beauty is a curse, my daughter, she would say, but today, and possibly for the first time I can ever recall, Grace has actually made an effort and allowed her friends to make her look unreservedly beautiful. No husband could be more thankful than I am at this moment. If only we were allowed to spend a few days together. Alas, we only have a few hours left until dawn. Tonight my childhood love belongs to me. Tomorrow she could belong to a wealthy statesman, as the most beautiful daughters taken by the state from believing parents are often made into state brides, and have to live life as servants and mistresses of high-ranking state officials. People had reminded us constantly, so many times over the years, of the painful truth that Grace once vowed to. Of this painful truth. People had reminded us constantly, so many times over the years, of the painful truth that Grace once vowed to disfigure herself on the day that she was chosen to become a state bride. I once caught her contemplating to scar her face with a knife, hoping that it would repel any wealthy statesman from obtaining her. I promised her on my mother's life that I will replicate whatever wound she places upon her face or herself twicefold. Grace broke down in tears. I only ever want to belong to you, she said. I tried my best to calm her. Have faith in our Lord, Grace. He will never let that happen to us. We will never be apart. Joseph, please hold me. I don't ever want this night to end. Help me fight the break of dawn. Grace says, bringing me back from my thoughts. I try to put on a brave act, even when all courage is collapsing within me. As I put my arms around Grace, she is trembling. Her sweet scent and warmth fills my heart with a comfort that's hard to describe in words, as if I was asked to imagine what heaven would feel like. At this moment, I would have to say holding on to Grace is close enough for me. My mother stands with Sophie next to her and gestures for me to climb the steps up to the steeple where we can spend our last few precious moments together. The state guards and the trucks will rumble into our impoverished town and demand the handing over of every firstborn servant child in the morning, and we will lose each other forever. Once we both reach the steeple, a million stars greet us. The midnight air caresses our bodies, and it feels refreshing with its refreshing coolness. Once we reach the steeple, a million stars greet us. The midnight air caresses our bodies with its refreshing cool scent. The whole town lies in front of our eyes like tiny lamps glowing peacefully, silent everywhere, all of which is soon to be snatched away from us. There is a wooden bench with some old blankets at the top of the steeple, where we sit together, alone, and wrap the blankets around ourselves to keep us as comfortable and warm as we can. I just want to stay in this safe, serene heaven with Grace at my side forever. We remain silent and watch all the distant lamps of light slowly go out as the night passes. And we'll leave it for there. Thank you so much for bearing with me. Sorry I couldn't read so well today. I've got a bit of a sore throat, but I'm trying to work through it. We've just been through a really atrocious cold spell of weather. We've had snow all week. So one last thing before I go, guys, I wanted to show you. I found something really cool. Apparently 50 years have passed in the making of the film Bullitt by Steve McQueen. It is an old classic film. It's got one of the best car chase scenes ever filmed in a Goodwood Green, I believe it's a Goodwood Green Ford Mustang, and to celebrate that they've actually released a brand new Mustang with his daughter Molly McQueen, his granddaughter, beg your pardon, third generation McQueen, Molly McQueen, his granddaughter, to unveil the 2019 Mustang, Ford Mustang, appropriately named Bullitt, the Bullitt Mustang. So I've got a quick picture for you here on my iPad. which I'll just turn around and try and give you a glimpse of. Right, there it is, guys. That is the 2019 Ford Mustang Bullitt with Steve McQueen's granddaughter Molly McQueen. There's a whole article on this if you want to read on that. I would highly recommend it. It's absolutely cool. The original was a 1968 Goodwood Green Mustang, and there is also a mega cool video on YouTube. If you type in a new Ford Mustang Bullitt advert, and you can catch that video as well. In the meantime, thank you so much for listening and bearing with me. Really appreciate your support, guys, and hope to catch up with you soon. We will continue with our car reviews and possibly drop in a few Wing Chun videos for you as well on Mondays. So thank you so much, and I'll love you and leave you. Bye.